Hey everybody, Kristina Carmody here with Indigo Dog Training. I'm here with Annie. She's a 1-year-old Vizsla. She's at the very tail end of her rehabilitation camp with me. I've had her for a little bit, almost 2 months now, dealing with some very severe resource guarding, certainly with food and her food bowl, but also, which made it a little bit more difficult in general, with her crate and space, dog beds, crate, and just space in general. So let's say, of course, in her crate, and we would then approach the crate, she would get super nervous and very aggressive about that, telling us to keep away. But for her owner, if her owner doesn't have her in a crate and she's just in a bedroom, just to get into that bedroom makes it extremely difficult. So once Annie was really intent in guarding a particular space that she was in, it was incredibly challenging to get any control over her. So I want to shoot this video. I want to show her owner exactly the food protocols that we're going through right now at this stage, now that she's, what we feel is kind of over her recovery hump and onto her maintenance program for her to continue at home. But also just to give everybody else out there an idea of what we really did to tackle one of these more extreme cases, if you will. Quite frankly, I was the only trainer that she reached out to that was even willing to take a dog like this on. One, because she was so young, she's barely a year, and two, allegedly her breed isn't supposed to be aggressive, which for me, I'm going to call BS on that. Any dog has a propensity to be aggressive, depending on the factors that go into play with it. We of course want to discount any medical issues, make sure that we look into those, make sure that her blood work comes back okay, to make sure that it's not medical related. And then once we do that, then let's just get them into a rehabilitation program so that we can get them onto the road to recovery and have them live much more happier, fulfilled lives in general. So Annie, because it was so severe, certainly if the food was anywhere near her, if her bowl was anywhere near her, whether it was full or empty, if she was in her crate, there was no way getting near her whenever she felt like she wanted to guard it in that moment. We went ahead and went on a 100% strict hand feeding protocol at first, where the only way that she was going to get fed her daily meals was through my hands. That is it. So the bowl wasn't even involved yet. Either I took the kibble directly from the plastic bag, or I had it waiting for me in my pockets and I was able to just hand feed her. Did that for a couple days, and what I did with it first was couple it with her obedience training. She had already been through a lot of positive reinforcement training, which was great because that way I could incorporate it into all of the obedience commands, and that's the way that she would simply get fed. So while I was building a relationship with her, she would be getting fed through her obedience commands and through my hand. So just a little bit like this. Annie, come, sit. Good girl. Very good. Good. Down. Good. Not. Good. Good. Sit. Good. Very good. Place. Good girl. Good. So, just like that. Did that over and over again. For me, obedience, especially when you start with positive reinforcement, it's a great foundation. Is it the end all be all? No. But what it does do is a few things. One, it just starts to build that relationship of trust and respect. And it also really just gets the dog comfortable listening to you, actually following your cues and what you're telling them to do. So it is a great foundation, and it's a great thing just to incorporate into a rehabilitation program, because in no way is it going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So from the hand feeding protocol, what we then did was once she really did start getting bonded to me and a little bit more of a relationship, still quite guarding of her crate, if you will, but we incorporated what's known as nothing in life is free. And you can Google that, NILIF, or nothing in life is free. And it's basically a premise with dog training where everything, and I mean everything, comes through you, the human. So everything that she does, from the moment we start the day to the moment we finish the day, especially if it's a resource she wants, or if it's an activity that she wants to do, it has to come from the human. So, of course, that incorporates the hand feeding of the meals. But if she wants to go out the door, she has to sit. She has to wait patiently and calmly until I then give her permission to do so. If she wants to go on a walk, then absolutely incorporate that a little bit of obedience, that heel right there where she has to be next to me or even a little bit behind me. And the walking, being out there on the leash, getting exercise, comes through me. If she wants to go in her crate, she needs my guidance to do so. If she wants to come out of her crate, obviously she needs my guidance to do so. So nothing in life is free. It really just incorporates this mindset in the dog that all these resources that I was guarding, now they come through this person. So it helps them kind of switch that mindset from, instead of this person being a source of something that steals my resources, this person is now a source to get my resources. So it helps them kind of just back off from that protectiveness that a lot of the resource guarders have. So we would do that. I'm gonna show you a little bit of how we would get her in and out of the crate and a little bit of the crate protocols that we ended up doing with her. But at some point down the recovery road, and realistically speaking, can you hand feed a resource guarder long term? Of course. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if it's a continuing problem, why not? You know, it's going to take you 10 minutes for breakfast, 10 minutes for dinner, and to hand feed a dog, you know, it's really, it's going to be worth it. Instead of, if you're really struggling with the food bowl especially, go ahead and just, you know, be set on hand feeding your dog from this point forward. However, there are going to be times when that may feasibly just not be realistic, and you do, you know, if the dog is guarding a food bowl, you want them to start to learn to not have to respond in that manner. So when we start introducing the food bowl back into it, I want to show you exactly how I do that. So the food bowl comes back into play, but it gets incorporated with the hand feeding protocol. And what I would do, I'm using a slow feeding food bowl for her one, because she is one of those devourers where she intakes a lot of air with her kibble, and it becomes her only mission in life for 30 seconds to finish her food as quickly as possible. So I am using a slow feeder bowl with her, which I think it also does help with some of that guarding instinct. And because she's got to work for it. But what I'm going to do is, the only way that she gets fed right first with this bowl is if my hand is in it. And I'm basically hand feeding her butt on top of the bowl. So I'll show you how that looks. Okay, sit. Good. So just like that. Good. Good. And then once I do a couple meals just like that, I go ahead and I have my hand still there, but it's actually placing the kibble in the bowl for her. Good. And I'm still holding the bowl, just so she knows that I'm the one giving her access to it. Good. A lot of times with resource guarders, they think your hand in the situation means danger. And this way, she learns that that's the way the kibble goes in the food bowl. All right, so we'll do it that way. And then, once she gets comfortable with that after a couple meals, the bowl will be on the floor, and I'll just keep doing the same thing, except the bowl's going to be stationary. Now, there's also other protocols we could do with this, where you would, in addition to putting the kibble in there, every now and then reach down there and put a higher value treat in there, whether that's like a Happy Howie food roll or some type of dog treat or a hot dog, whatever. Good girl. All right. So we basically get to the point where we're doing that. Good girl. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'll go ahead and put her in obedience command, whether that's a down or place a couple feet away. Okay, go place. Good. No, all the way back, place. Good. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is fill the food bowl up a little bit more. And since I taught her a really good solid recall during our obedience phase, I'm going to call her out of it, make her do it, make her go to place, reward her, feed her there, so it wasn't me completely taking away her food source, and then sending her back to it. You ready? Okay, go eat. Good girl. Good. You can see her swallowing air. That's why a slow feeding bowl is so important for this dog. Okay, Annie, come. No, come. Good. Down. Good. That's better. A little slow on that one. Had to give her a no marker to let her know to do it a little bit quicker. That. Place. Come. Down. Good. Jump the gun. So getting her right back, letting her know, going back to her nothing in life is free training. You have to wait for my cue. Okay, go eat. Good girl. Very good. And I'll do this about 2 or 3 times each meal where I'm calling her out of it, giving her, 10, 15 seconds to go ahead and eat there. Good. Annie, come. Place. Oh, place. Good. Good. Okay, go eat. Good job. And one more time, and I'll let her finish it. All the while continuing to kind of just reach down there and throw in more kibble. Or if we were still in the active, really recovery phase, I would be throwing in some higher value rewards in there. Annie, come. Place. Good. Down. Good. Very good. And go ahead and let her finish. Okay, go eat. Good job. And then what I would do, this last piece, is once she's finished what's in the bowl, I'm going to go ahead and have her do a little bit more obedience. Good. Good girl. Looking to me for more food. So she knows that I am the source of it. The bowl is not the source of the food. I am actually the source that then puts it into the bowl, gives it to you, gives you access to it. Good. Okay, place. Good. Come. Down. Not down. Good. Good. Pick up the bowl. Good. Good girl. Okay, please. Good girl. And do it just like that. And then what I'll go ahead and show you is getting her in and out of the crate. She's a rock star at it now, but I want to show you kind of the safety protocols that I took the first couple weeks to make sure that we get to the point where she no longer is guarding that crate. Of course, it starts with the obedience training, like I said, just getting that foundation of the dog listening to you, starting to respect you, but also starting to trust you. I do a ton of positive reinforcement with these dogs. She's already had positive reinforcement training, so that helped that stage go through pretty quickly. But then I also really love adding in negative reinforcement with these dogs with the e-collar, because it helps make it so much more reliable, so much more effective, and it also gives the training an opportunity to be her safety net. So negative reinforcement is basically the principle of adding in something that is maybe uncomfortable or just, you know, it's not something the dog wants. And then by doing the training, they get rewarded for it. So they learn that the training and the person and the concept of listening to the person is actually their way of being safe and protected. Whereas a lot of times with these dogs, that resource guarding is because they don't feel safe. They feel like they have to protect those resources. So flipping their brains a little bit with that negative reinforcement through e-collar training, combine it with positive reinforcement, it just helps solidify the training tenfold. So it's so much more reliable and so much more effective. So I'll show you guys how we handle that, but this is the basic food protocol that her owners are going to start keeping up with, where the food bowl is there, so if we ever need to like quickly just throw it in the bowl and run or whatever, we can, but it becomes more of a give and take with the human than just this is yours, devour it. Instead, I'm still involved with it, both me putting the kibble in there and then you also responding to my cues on a consistent basis as the kibble is on there. You see how much she devours it, which is why I moved to the slow feeding bowl with her. But not just that physical aspect of it, but that mental aspect where she has to rush and do it. It's still in her. So it's very important that we keep up with a maintenance program that really helps her just relax and stick with it for the long term. So let's go ahead. We'll check out what we do with her with the crate. Okay, good girl. Come on. All right. So when I was hand feeding her, I'd have her basically go into the crate. This is how she was going to get fed. You would go into the crate, and I'll give you a few pieces of kibble. Have her do a little bit of obedience in there. So she would sit, she would lay down. And when we first started with her and she was very guarding of the crate, closing the door was a pretty big moment of contention. And a lot of people that have crate protective issues, they know this firsthand, where the act of closing the door becomes a little bit stressful for the dog. Down. So what I did is if she wanted to get fed her meal that day, it happened when I was closing the door. So I would actually feed her through the bars of the door. Down. So she would start to look for the food. Down. Good. More so than be stressed about the door closing. And down. Good. Down. Good. Start to close those bars. While continuing to feed her. Good girl. Same thing, as I'd reach for the bars to get her out, I'd also be feeding her. Good girl. Down. Now, one little cheat that I ended up doing with her, because the first week or two of it was so contentious and just approaching her crate caused her to really start growling and be very nervous about it. I only own one of these. It's not a tool that I take out of my toolbox very frequently. But this is the sole purpose that I use it for. So when I have a dog that's really an iffy situation of getting out of that crate, I have a chain leash to leave on them. And the purpose of the chain leash is because they may, if it's a nylon or a rope or a leather leash, they may end up chewing through it, which certainly if a dog ends up chewing the leash, it becomes useless to me. Plus, I don't want them, by leaving the leash on them, I don't want it to end up being a choking hazard. So I would get a lightweight chain leash, leave it on them for as long as I need to, once they are really still being quite guarding of that crate. Now, adding in the e-collar over the first week or two of her training helped me not need the leash as much, but that doesn't help me until a week or two into it. So what I would do is I would get her in there with the food. I would go ahead, have the leash there waiting for me. Of course, her crate is right near my bedroom down. So I would continue to still keep a good eye out for her, making sure that it's not getting tangled or anything like that. It's on her flat collar that comes apart quite easily, so it's not going to be down. She's looking for that food. So it's not going to be as much of a choking risk as if I put it on like a Marengo collar or more of like a choke slip leash. Good girl. And what I would do is if she starts guarding that crate, growling at me as I'm approaching it, even if I'm just approaching I wasn't intending to let her out anyway, I'm just in the room and she's growling at me, I would quickly grab the handle, get her out of there. Why? Because that was her way of saying, stay away from me. I want nothing to do with you right now. And I'm saying, nope, we're doing this instead. So immediately taking that mindset that she is in and giving it a 180 and saying, nope, you're going to follow me from now on. That's what we're going to do. And the other thing that does is it lets her know that her typical tactics are not going to work on me. You can growl all you want. We're still getting to work. So just letting her know that she can no longer manipulate the situation through that aggression. Of course, that takes into account having some trust that once you do let them out of the crate, they're not going to continue to be brats about it or jerks or a-holes. That comes with some experience. So knowing whether a dog is truly at risk of causing you harm in a moment. Most of these resource guarders, it comes from nervousness. So you learn to read if the dog is a true threat of being an asshole in a moment, or if they are nervous, and as long as you handle the situation appropriately, you're going to be safe with that. That just comes with experience, like I said, and getting comfortable with dogs over an extended period of time. That's why, especially if you do have a severe resource guarder, highly recommend tackling it with a trained professional who has gotten very good results with the dogs over a period of time. So, because they're going to know how to be safe under all circumstances. That's the big one, guys, is you got it. Hey, down, enough. You got to stay safe. Yeah. So, number one goal in my mind of dog training is humans don't get bit. Number two is dogs don't get bit. But number one is definitely humans don't get bit. So this chain leash really helps to be able to switch this dog's mindset on a dime while still having good control over them. And if I need to, in a pinch, the leash is already on them and I can quickly get them away. I don't use the chain leash for any type of training. Down. For any type of training or, control, leash guidance, and so on. It's strictly there for me to leave on the dog long term, especially those that whether it's a day or 3 days or a week, up to a week or so longer, like I had to do with Annie. Annie, down. That's enough. Good girl. So that's what we did with her, and that's what we're going to. She doesn't need any more. Down. That's what we're going to go ahead and have the owners continue with over time, just getting her more and more comfortable with the food bowl being in the equation, but also understanding that all her resources come from the human, and in order for you to get those resources, all you gotta do is listen to what the human says, that we are there for you to trust and respect. We are not there for you to be worried about that we're gonna rain on your parade. Instead, we become your parade. So it becomes fun for both. And at the end of the day, hey, Annie, down. She's a highly motivated, fun dog. She really is. So being able to use, down, Annie, down. Being able to use a ton of positive reinforcement and being able to use, hey, I know you're excited, down. Good. Being able to use a ton of positive reinforcement, being able to use the obedience to get through to her, it goes a really long way of helping to desensitize and counter condition these guys when they're super stressed. So that's it for Annie, and we'll definitely make sure that her owner knows exactly the protocols that she needs to follow to keep the maintenance, going. These guys, I tell people, especially with aggression and resource guarding, it is going to end up being some form of lifelong maintenance, and that's just it. It's just maintenance, where, you can't expect to have your car and not ever get oil changes. You're always going to make sure that there's some form of maintenance on a day-to-day basis that's just going to prevent future problems from creeping up, and those old problems to getting back in the forefront. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. You a good girl? Yeah, you are. You just gotta be patient. Remember we talked about that? Yes, you did. Okay. Good girl.